3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing this evening? We can't see the chat yet because of some technical difficulties. We're dealing with that real quick here. How is everybody doing? I am your host, Kai Zen. This is Elite Week, and we are seamless, as always. You've heard my voice plenty, so yeah. Let me know if
Looks like Twitch is live, but YouTube chat's still down.
All right. So that you've heard my voice a little. Hopefully the volume's good. Let's go ahead and bring in Roy. Roy, talk for the people.
Good evening, everyone, / morning. Hope you're doing well. Glad to have you here.
All right. And Arson, say some stuff for the people.
Some stuff for the people. Good to be here, as usual, your friendly galactic arsonist.
All right. It should have chat now if you reload.
Okay.
Tweet, say hi. Let's check your levels.
Hello, everybody, on this wonderful Friday the 13th. Watch everybody behind you for that Mr. Jason Voorhees in this nasty year of 2020. Hope everybody's ready for a very interesting and fun-packed show this evening.
Beautiful. And we also have our special guest. We're gonna go with we'll go with Beauty and Then Age, BeetleJude. Say hello to everyone.
Hello.
And can you talk just for a little bit so we can get your levels?
All right. Go on then. Yeah. I'm here. Behind a microphone.
Beautiful. And WOTHERSPOON.
Good evening, one and all. Or good morning, one and all, if you're in Europe. And if you're Stuart GT who never goes to bed, hi, Stuart.
Yes. Happy time zones to you. And as they say on another show that'll be filming in a couple hours. All right. So, okay, I did not see chat earlier. We're seeing it now. Just anybody, was there anybody bad on levels or was everybody good? So far from what I've seen from BeetleJude on, everybody, or tweaked on, everybody was fine. Nolan says all fine so far. Frody says 07. Okay. I apologize for people in the chat before I saw it, but I'm seeing Stuart GT. Hello. I'm seeing Nolan Sester. Hi. Control it on. What's up? A Swede in Brooklyn. Stuck there. Let's see. We've got Stosh FPV, Commander, Mage Hand, Sack Tap 07. We've got Frody 131. Hello, sir. We've got Mark DEAVES. I wonder where do I know that name from? Where do I know that name from? The master of the AZURE paint job. We got something from him coming up. Commander Broken Wand. Big salute. Hello, everybody. All right. We're going to just jump right to this because we got a lot of shit to get to and we're already starting off late. So, Arson, mute the mics and get it done.
Previously on Elite Week.
The way I see it, there's only 3 kinds of people in this world. Bad ones, ones you follow, and ones you need to protect.
All right, look, I've tried to be reasonable. You give me your word in 10 seconds, or I shoot you in the head.
I know Kung Fu.
Out of order!
Fuck! Even in the future, nothing works.
Music loud and women warm, been kicked around since I was born. And nothing's gonna change the way we live, 'cause we can always take but never give. And now that things are changing for the worse, see, oh, life's going nowhere. Somebody help me, somebody help me, yeah. Futures made of virtual insanity now, always I just can't lose. And nothing's gonna change the way we live. Cause we can always take but never give. And now that things are changing for the worse. See, oh, life's going nowhere. Somebody help me. Somebody help me, yeah. Futures made of virtual insanity now always seem to be governed by this love we have for useless twisting of a new technology. Oh, now there is no sound, for we all live underground. Life's going nowhere. Somebody help me. Somebody help me, yeah. Oh, life's going nowhere. Somebody help me. Somebody help me, yeah. Futures made of virtual insanity now always seem to be governed by this love we have for useless twisting of a new technology. Oh, now there is no sound, for we all live underground. Oh, futures made of virtual insanity now always seem to be governed by this love we have for useless twisting of a new technology. Oh, now there is no sound, for we all live underground, live underground, live underground.
Hello, hello, and welcome to Elite Week, episode 49. Galactic Water Cooler, Friday, November 13th, 2020, with special guest Galnet News Digest, comprised of one Mr. Wotherspoon and one Mrs. BeetleJude. Miss BeetleJude. Find out. All right.
Yeah.
I am your host, Kai Zen, and I would like to welcome you to the party. We also have with us my co-pilot and commander of all things Canadian, Roy Cookson. Say hello, Roy.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Hope you're having a great day.
Yes, yes. Happy time zone to you. And on the tech, making lots of noise, we have Arsen Cross. Say hello, Arsen.
Good evening, everybody. It's always nice to have a cold one after starting some fires.
Beautiful. And we have Tweet74 from OPIC. Say hello, my man.
Happy Friday the 13th, everybody. I hope you're ready for an entertaining, fun-filled, educational show. Kai, welcome back to Elite Week. I was afraid the Lave boys were going to keep you over there after your wonderful appearance on Lave Radio this week. Well done, man.
Keep me. They threw me out. They locked the door behind me and they literally drugged me so that I wouldn't remember how to get back. It was, yeah. There's no worries. No worries at all. And our special guest, as we said, we have, let's start off with Commander Wotherspoon this time. Say hello.
Hello, how are you?
And Commander BeetleJude. Say hello, Tim.
Hello, I'm Tim.
That is a inside joke that you'll have to ask BeetleJude about at some point in the future. All right. So, yeah, let's get this started. Right off the bat, that was a kick-ass song to get us started by Pomplamoose. And that was a mashup from the BeeGees and Jamiroquai. Good stuff. And going out, we'll have Take On Me by AHA, covered by Andy Case. Phenomenal stuff. I want to give a big shout out to the Frontier Art Department for Bright Light Space City. That's what I call that picture that we're using as the thumbnail for this episode. All right, let's get right into the intro. Right off the bat, Arsen, throw up that picture. Don't got any of them darts. All right. It is. Let's look at the Pulse Wave Analyzer update. As of today, this issue has been occurring and breaking the core mining gameplay loop for exactly 68 days. It was broken on the patch September 7th. We're going to keep you guys updated on that for as long as it takes until it's resolved. Let's talk about the new official Elite Week Twitter at Elite Week 3306. let's talk about the fact that according to our good friend of the show, Obsidian Ant, we are now at 0.4827645775%. So almost 1/2 of 1/10 of 1% of the galaxy uncovered. That's 193 million star systems that have been discovered in the last 5.5 years. That's 399,807,000,000, or 99.995% to go. Let's get on that. What do you say, guys? Good stuff. It's crazy, mind-blowing how big this game is and all of the things that Frontier have given us to play with. So let's show them what we can do. As of next week, Elite is going to be free. That's crazy. We're going to talk about that. Give you a heads up about it. PC Gamer put out a PC Gamer UK, dropped a magazine yesterday, and it turns out that high-waisted thongs over the spacesuit is the hot look for 3307. Arson, show the people what that looks like. That joke comes to you courtesy of Commander Alec Turner. I think we're getting a little bit of bleed through from BeetleJude. All right, let's see here. This date in space history, November 13th, 1970, Mariner 9 became the first spacecraft to orbit Mars. Now, NASA had several Mars flybys before Mariner 9. Those flybys showed that Mars had a cratered surface, so the scientists thought that the moon would be similar to what Mars would look like. And then Mariner 9 blew their minds. When Mariner 9 got to Mars, it arrived in the middle of a dust storm, and it saw some tall structures sticking through the clouds. When the dust settled, imagers from Mariner 9 revealed, I'm saying that a lot, revealed that these structures were the tops of huge volcanoes, including one volcano, Olympus Mons, which is the tallest in the solar system that we found thus far. It also spotted an enormous canyon called Valles Marineris. This canyon is 5 times longer than the Grand Canyon. It worked for 1 year in orbit, and when it ran out of gas, NASA shut it off, but the spacecraft remains one of the most famous Mars voyagers of all time. And now, these years later, we have Hope from the United Arab Emirates, Heavenly Questions from China, and Mars 2020 from us are all scheduled to arrive at Mars in under 100 days. Mars 2020 will be landing, or scheduled to land, on February 18th, 2021. Heavenly Questions soon after. And Hope from the UAE is going to just orbit the planet and do extensive weather pattern and atmospheric research tests. So Godspeed, you beautiful little robots. And while we're wishing Godspeed, our love and hopes for a safe and smooth mission go out to the NASA Crew 1, comprised of NASA astronauts, Mission Specialist Shannon Walker, Pilot Victor Glover, and Commander Mike Hopkins, along with JAXA, that is the Japanese Aeronautical Exploration Agency, or astrological, rather. Astro Exploration Agency. Astronaut Mission Specialist Soichi Noguchi, who will be launching this Sunday at 7:27 Eastern Standard Time aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket on the first operational mission. The previous SpaceX flight was slated as a mission test from the U.S. shores since 2011. This also marks the first ever U.S. launched 4-member crewed capsule mission. Previously, they'd had 2-member or 3-member capsule crews, and they had larger crews in the space shuttle, but this is a first for capsule missions for the U.S. Let's see here. Yeah, so just wanted to give a big shout out to them. You guys represent the best of us, and we pray that God, Buddha, the universe, and Lady Luck will all work together in this 2020 to see fit to return you safely to us upon successful completion of your 6-month mission. Go ahead and hit the plugs.
If you're listening to us on the podcast and would like to see the live show and visuals, check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/Elite Week. and on Twitch at twitch.tv/Elite Week. If you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch and would like to know how to catch us on our podcast, check out anchor.fm/Elite Week.
For sending us your thoughts by email, you can reach us at eliteweek3306@gmail.com.
Our very active and growing Elite Week Discord can be found at tinyurl.com/Elite Week Discord, where you can check out or contribute to community feedback, resources on turning the wheel, and real-time updates about Elite from a variety of content creators.
In addition to the Discord community feedback channel, feel free to write in our YouTube comments anything about the topic of the week, as well as anything else you'd like to share. We'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe and click on the bell. It really helps us out. On Twitch, a follow would be much appreciated.
If you're on Twitter, feel free to follow at EliteWeek3306 for news and information about Elite Dangerous and cool sci-fi and space news.
We record live on YouTube every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 1 a.m. UTC, so come and join in on the fun.
If you're listening to us on the podcast, please make sure to rate and review us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever platform you use. And let us know if there's a format you want us to look into.
We don't do Patreon, so save your money and just tell your friends about the show.
Right on. So let's get right to it. Let's start off with our guest interviews, WOTHERSPOON and BeetleJude, aka Galnet News Digest. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
So, WOTHERSPOON, you've been, I've been, madly in love with you for quite some time, and your ability to spin bullshit out of nothing and kind of keep the storyline going. And now Frontier is playing with you. They're giving you actual fun stuff to really report on. That's gotta feel good, huh?
Spin something out of bullshit. That's lovely. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not, but
I've
thank
always
you.
thought you're a weaver of turds.
Thank you.
Turd
Jude.
weaver.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Turd
Thank
weaver in chief.
There you go.
Oh,
So-
yes.
So,
Mhm.
tell me, it's gotta feel really good for them to be giving you something to work with now.
Well, it helps, certainly. And way back in 3302, when I started doing this stuff, there was quite a bit in game. There was clearly quite a lot being injected as the Kahina Loren Salome storyline. There was the beginnings of the coming of the Thargoids. All of those things were happening, and I was chronicling that in what was at the time a podcast. And then it was really halfway through last year, things began to get a little bit quiet. We had the big interstellar initiatives, but all the other Galnet dried up, ostensibly because Frontier was upset at us, or upset at themselves, for misleading the players into thinking that there might be some storyline to the game. And after it had sort of worked its way through 4 interstellar initiatives at the end of last year, Galnet just sort of quietly went to sleep, and nothing of note happened for 6 months, 7 months.
I had not noticed.
No, indeed. And then I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but the community management team changed, and things sort of seemed to liven up quite rapidly. Now, that may have been something that was already planned in terms of lead up to Odyssey, but I don't think it was. I think all of this reuse of existing assets is just making something good and meaningful and narrative based at relatively low cost to the company, and actually giving the players something to do in a galaxy that had, quite frankly, become quite sort of sadly quiet. So yes, I am quite pleased that we have some stories to look at, and I'm quite impressed by the way that the storylines are interleaving, and that there's meaningful things happening that actually have a consequence for players who choose to get involved. But at the same time, if you still want to just go out and do your own thing, you can still go out and do your own thing. It all works very nicely, thank you.
Beautiful. And you have been so, let's say, uh, busy with keeping up with all of this. It seems you've brought along a new protege who is, helping you carry the load with all of this news in BeetleJude. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if she's necessarily a completely new protege. She's done a lot of voice acting work or
Sure.
reading of scripts for Sagittarius Eye, for example, for quite some time now. But yeah, I mean, sort of, it's quite nice getting a second voice and being able to alternate the voices a bit. And BeetleJude does have some creative input to some of the stories as well, which is quite nice.
That's fantastic. Yeah. You guys, I've, obviously I've been a fan of Galnet News Digest and a proponent of it for forever. But I think that with BeetleJude's addition, both on the mic and with helping the stylistically or whatever on content generation, you guys have been just taking it to the next level and doing a fantastic job.
Why, thank you.
I make a very good cup of tea.
Lovely.
Yes,
Beautiful.
it's a morally good cup of tea. It tastes foul.
Yes. It's decent, upstanding.
Yes, the spoon upstands. It's very, very
So-
thick tea.
So we're going to have in the show notes all of the YouTube, FeedBurner, iTunes, Twitter, Flickr, the whole 9 yards for both WOTHERSPOON and BeetleJude, everybody's information. But I kind of wanted to talk to you about the goings on, just sort of fairly recently, and the things that have been sort of as this storyline evolves and kind of what you guys think of all of this, where you think it might be going.
Which storyline are you thinking of?
Well, so to my mind, there's 3 separate storylines, and 2 of them are now at this point sort of interwoven. You
Okay.
have the story of the lame duck Trump refusing to let go of power. I mean, Hudson refusing to let go of power, and you've got Felicia Winters sort of nipping at his heels, and his own political base seems to have been just sort of eroding faster and faster by the moment, which is now intertwined with this interesting story of sort of how do we say it, the
What, the
NMLA.
Republicans?
Well, you've got that, and then you have the NMLA, which are very clearly a separate group from the Marlinist Republicans, and their interactions. Go ahead.
I would sort of disagree with that. They are similar but different. They have perhaps similar aims, but have different means of achieving those aims.
Yes, but they're very different. They're very distinct groups in that. Yeah, I would say that the analogy would be sort of people of the Islamic faith as to radical Islamic terrorists. They have some similarities, but they're not the same.
Perhaps you could make an analogy between Republicans who believe that Donald Trump should be re-elected despite not being re-elected, and sort of folks in Wyoming who are willing to take up arms to ensure that Trump gets reinstated without an election.
Sure, or Irish citizens and the Irish Republican Army, or many other groups where you have.
Careful. Sort of, there's Republicans in Ireland, and as in people who believe in the unification of the country, and
Sure.
And yes, indeed, there are various, or have been various paramilitary organizations as well. That's right. Yes.
Absolutely, but I mean, there's difference between. So I may carry some of the same views as other people, but I don't. If I'm not a terrorist, if I'm not killing people because of my views, I'm very different from those who do justify those actions.
Yes, I mean there's obviously a sort of huge moral chasm there, and you need to be fairly strongly justified before you pick up a gun and start killing people.
Sure.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there's those two storylines that are interweaving. There's sort of maybe a third subplot of this old school hardliner Hadrian now having a brush with death and having sort of an Ebenezer, maybe an Ebenezer Scrooge moment where he's now coming around to the kinder, gentler, groovier position of Ashling, possibly.
Yes. Yep.
And
Okay,
then
so that's the first
that's
two things: the Starship One and the Marlinists. Yes, and
sure.
then you're going to go on to presumably various things that have been happening with Thargoids.
I would say that the Thargoid things seem to, at least thus far, seem to fit neatly into the description of Thargoids and the Alliance. So far.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're right. Absolutely. And the Alliance Expeditionary Force in particular, because they were set up in order to colonize the Witchhead Nebula, pretty much,
Which they did.
and the Alliance does seem to have pretty much taken over the Witchhead Nebula. There's still a presence for the Empire and from the Federation, but the Alliance does seem to be pretty prominent, and it was certainly very prominent indeed in the recent sort of incursion of Thargoids trying to return to the Witchhead Nebula. And then, strangely enough, it's that Alliance faction that has traversed the entire bubble and sort of popped up sort of to the northeast, if you like, in the Musca Dark region, where there's some more barnacles been discovered, some barnacles that haven't been exhausted, some barnacles that still have loads of meta-alloys on them. And yes, it's that faction of the Alliance that appears to want to make some easy cash by harvesting these.
They seem to be making hay while the sun shines, while the imps and the fetties are busy sort of posturing with each other.
Yes, that may be a good characterization. Of course, as far as the Federation's concerned, it's really only got a sort of border incursion. It's not sort of affecting the whole of the Empire. So the whole of the Federation, but the problems with Starship One and whether or not Hudson was involved in any criminal activity or sanctioned any criminal activity against his political rivals, and indeed killed an awful lot of people from the Federal Civil Service in the process by allowing Starship One to be destroyed. That's clearly causing some problems. He was very much more willing to work with the Empire than Felicio Winters. He would have been willing to return the Marlinists, the Republicans, even though they probably share many of his political views, in order to keep things on an even keel with the Empire. He would have traded them back, and unfortunately, he's not in a position to do that at the moment, for better or for worse. So yes, Winters is taking a slightly a softer line from the point of view of the people concerned, but possibly a harder line against the Empire, which may or may not escalate into something more than a border skirmish. We have to wait and see.
So, BeetleJude, what do you think of these sort of storylines and where it's progressing, and how are you enjoying it? Are you a little like, wait and see, or what do you think?
I just enjoy experiencing going to places in the game and looking at the things that they put in. I'm very much a tourist. I don't really look that deeply. I do enjoy it. I like reading the stories and finding out about it, but I don't. It's just a game. I have fun.
Beautiful.
I look at the pretty places. I drain the barnacles of their barnacle juice and run off with the cash. It's a good life.
And back to WOTHERSPOON. What do you think? What do you think is going to be the next step with this? What do you where do you foresee this? Where do you foresee this going after? Let's say, because they've been doing a pretty decent job of like interspersing. You do a sort of a Thargoid CG over here. You do this CG over there. Whatever. Where do you see this going next? I mean, I don't see the tensions sort of dissipating between the alliance between the Empire and the Federation.
No, you're probably right. It sounds like it's going to take a while before the Starship One thing gets worked out. They did kind of put something in saying that, hey, it's going to take a little while to sort of complete the investigation, and in the meantime, Hudson's going to remain sort of in charge. So I guess that's signaling that we're not going to hear too much more about Starship One. Although on the rotation, that would be the next thing to come up if you kind of look at the sequence of Galnet stories that get published. They do interleave quite nicely. I guess there will continue to be political posturing in the Federation. It may be that, so we've had a couple of Thargoid combat events. There's one going on at the moment, and there was one earlier in the Witchhead Nebula. We've had one. Well, we've had a few combat events, sort of like civil war in the Empire, and this border skirmish, which is now completed. I know we have 3 of the systems have gone into sort of bad states because of refugees coming into the Federation. So we have like famine, pestilence, and war happening on those border systems. I really don't know where it's going to go, but if I were to guess, if it's not going to be Starship One that sort of throws up anything exciting in the immediate future, then we're probably going to go back to some sort of terrorist activity within the Empire. So it'd be interesting to see what Frontier can do with assets that we already have in game that will be new, interesting, startling, to spark our interest. The other thing, of course, that has been really fascinating is that for many of these CGs, they've managed to provide some sort of unique reward for participants, and that's new. That's pretty different. You used to be able to get paint jobs or decals. Now you're getting engineered modules, which you can't get by any other means. So
yeah, they're chucking out paint jobs on the streams now. I mean, Arthur gave out 6 last week.
Yeah, absolutely. There were 6 from the Tuesday Super Cruise thing with Super Cruise News with Bruce and Steven.
That was a very successful stream, I thought.
Was it Steven? Was it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was good stuff. If WOTHERSPOON now were to say something to sort of WOTHERSPOON, let's say, I don't know, 8 months ago, when everything was just sort of completely quiet and you were drumming up things, you were, I don't know how you were doing it, man. You were just shucking and jiving to keep things going. What do you, I mean, how do I even say this? How does this make you feel for the future of Elite, at least going up into 2022, as they say this storyline will be? It seems like we're in a live galaxy again, right?
Yes, it seems that way. I mean, clearly the reality is that for most people, like Jude, the normal gameplay doesn't change, but it feels more alive, and you've got the opportunity to get involved if you want to get involved. It's probably a fairly small percentage of players who actually play the CGs, as opposed to going away and doing mining or kind of completing the various tasks that you have an opportunity to complete in the game. But even if it is a relatively small number of people, it matters to an awful lot more people than who get involved, because they really want to feel that they're in a living galaxy, that there's something going on around them. And without that, it just felt dead and flat, and there were, let me be frank, there were some completely uninspiring Frontier streams, and you'd kind of look at it and think, yeah, okay, it's not, this is, whatever they're doing in terms of development, they're really not putting any effort into maintaining the live game. I'm fairly confident that with sort of Arthur and Lawrence working together, we have a good opportunity of maintaining that into the future. I think I think Frontier recognised that they dropped the ball, that it was a big mistake. Yes, they needed to put all their resources into getting Odyssey out, because Odyssey is a much more massive undertaking than the original Elite release, in quite a big way. And they've got about the same length of time to release it, and from point of starting working on it to the point of release, it is a massive undertaking. They definitely need a lot of people on that, but they also need to retain their players in the meantime. And I actually, from point of view of what I would have said to myself sort of 8 months ago, I would have said, well, yeah, just you're doing exactly the right thing. Cut back on the number of releases you're doing. Keep the thing going, because I guess you've got to have some faith. It's like these guys clinging on to the outside of the Nautilus in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Sort of Captain Nemo will come good, and yes, they have come good. They've steered the ship back on course, and we. I think we're heading in a good direction. Odyssey obviously is going to create a lot of new gameplay loops. It's going to create new environments. It's going to create stuff that is just naturally interesting. But I think they'll still need the storyline on top of that, because you want to have events. You want to have things that people think, hey, am I missing out on something here if I go off and do this other thing, if I go and explore this planet or whatever, because that creates that kind of dichotomy in your gameplay, that I want to do this, but at the same time there's this other thing going on over here, and it's limited time, and I should be going and seeing what that's all about as well. That makes for a much richer gaming experience than to just take your time and there's no rush.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. If you have no opportunity cost whatsoever, that just means that you have nothing to offer, so there's nothing to miss out on.
Yeah.
BeetleJude, you were going to say something?
I could do. I think that probably WOTHERSPOON had plenty of stuff planned to go with, even whilst Galnet was switched off, because he was looking into the history of the game. So there's tons there. It's a massive universe. It's a massive story, and there's loads of bits and bobs, different aspects of it you can look at. I mean, let's just look at the book series as then the different minutiae that people make whole books out of in different universes. I mean, look at all the Star Treks. That's a galaxy. And there's plenty going on. So I mean, he looked at power play. I remember that. And you were going to look at the main corporations as well, weren't you?
Yes, that's right. I'd started working on that. To be honest, sort of once I'd spent some time looking at the source material, I wish I'd spent a bit more effort on Powerful People, because with Powerful People, I was kind of creating stories around these characters, but there's so much background to the galaxy. If you go and look at all the various sources that are available, and there are some sources that we don't have access to because we're not authorized elite authors, but there is an awful lot which has been published by those novel writers and by those game creators and whatever. And if you go and dig your way through that, there's an awful lot of background to this game. You could do a sort of like a 20-part sort of hour-long series on the history of the galaxy, and you probably still couldn't cover it all. It is just amazing how much detail there is. Other game companies would kill for this kind of background to a game. It is just incredible.
And the non-canon stuff as well.
You mean Oolite?
I don't mean Oolite. I always mean Oolite. I don't just mean that, but I do mean all of the other iterations of the game have all had their own little variants on the theme, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, there's a massive sort of field of rich resources that they have at their disposal. And thankfully, while it sort of laid fallow for a while, it's been picked back up again, and I think that we are in an elite renaissance. Excited to see what comes next.
Yeah, It'd be nice to think so, and we have every reason to believe it's true. And to be honest, what Arthur has put together with the guys from the sort of the production part of the dev team is just amazing. It's better than I would have expected. I was kind of expecting some. I mean, the interstellar initiatives were good. They had a storyline, but the actual what you do was a bit limited. What they've come up with this time round is actually richer gameplay and definitely easier to get involved with and more rewarding to get involved in. And I just wish I sort of was either good at trading, had a mega ship, or was really good at combat with Thargoids, because I would quite like one of those frame shift drives that they're selling at the moment.
Absolutely.
We'll do some Tharg combat. I shall.
No, the Thargs will do some combat against me, and that's what'll happen.
Well,
I shall be a little greasy stain on the galaxy.
you have to give it the old. You have to give it the try. You know, get out there and mix it up.
In your Guardian fighter.
Yeah. Once I've got my Guardian fighter, yes. Yes.
I think you guys will be absolutely fine. Come with me. I'll take you down there and we'll squash some bugs or do some trucking, either which one. All right. So guys, how about you join us as we go take you on a guided tour through the galaxy, powered by vodka and Good Hopes. All right. And also maybe a little beer. Let's start off with the Dark Wheel update. Right off the bat, there's not a whole lot to report. The last time we talked to you, we were pending expansion. We're still pending expansion. We're planning to expand tomorrow. Tomorrow should be the day that we land in Lave. We're going to land in Lave. We're going to kick some owls out of the system. And we're going to hang out with our buddies, the Lave Radio network. So we look forward to that. With regard to everything else is proceeding well. We are in day 2 of our war in Pralac to take over the system. We're 2-0. Everything is good everywhere, and we're just going to keep on trucking. We are going to land in Lave tomorrow, I predict. We're going to then expand our next expansion out of 397, where we will land right next to Seoul, very close. In the neighborhood. We'll let you know where as it happens, but everything looks good for that. And then we're just going to march our way down to LFT 509 and have a little fun and see what happens if we can unlock a permit or what have you when we get to 509. We'll see how it goes. We also showed you, Arson was showing earlier on the screen, the AZURE paint job, all main ships by Mark DEAVES. Link is in the show notes. You really should take a look at this. His name is Commander Devo. His YouTube channel is Mark DEAVES, but he's Devo, Commander Devo. And this paint job looks way better than it did in the pictures. So give it a look, and if you have it, throw it on your ship and take a look at what it looks like gleaming out in space. And I think you might dig it. So good stuff. Next up, there is a brand new lore site that was found this week, and it is spooky AF. Cole 285 sector, Nancy Papa dash Whiskey Alpha 31-3, and it's body 6A. It's the moon, the first moon of the 6th planet. If you go there, you can see, just map it out, and you can see extraction site HS-98 that has a very, very spooky story that goes along with it. I know that Galnet News Digest covered it. I thought your coverage of it was fantastic. I told the boys at Lave about it when I was a guest on Lave Radio this Tuesday, and they came out and take a look at it as well. Ben thought it was a pretty cool story, as did I. We have a link to the Reddit thread that has all of the information about how it was found. It was basically from listening posts. This was not part of the Halloween event. This is a completely separate thing that just happened to be found. But let me tell you, this was a very much, it felt like a Halloween themed story to me. It was very, very spooky. So go check it out. Tell us what you think. Next up, we've got The Fatherhood. There's a new daily podcast. It's a daily news podcast put out by Commander Hader. It's Haider 360 of the Fatherhood player group. And they have, they're a group of elite dads who sort of, their theme is, when the kids go to sleep, we go to space. And their motto is, don't dream of the stars, fly amongst them, or live amongst them, I think. So there's a link to the YouTube channel, the brand new custom named YouTube channel, www.youtube.com, The Fatherhood News, all one word. Go check that out. Subscribe to that little podcast. It's a daily news podcast that goes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes long. It's a neat sort of series of stories that Commander Hader is interweaving actual BGS stuff and CG stuff and Galnet stuff with sort of these storylines that he's writing and creating with characters. And it's not a thing where like, oh, the fatherhood is just like the heroes always and 100% right. Like there's stories where it makes it seem like the fatherhood are the good guys. There's other stories where it makes it seem like the fatherhood are the bad guys. He's writing these neat little narratives where this different cast of characters among a dozen different systems are sort of involved in these conflicts and back and forth on a local level. And he's basically sort of doing a Galnet news digest on a microcosm level in this one area of space and telling really neat little stories. I subscribed to it and went back, and there's like 20 episodes out or so, 23, 24, whatever. And I went and just listened to all of them back to back. And now I'm caught up and I've got it set up in my podcast feed. And as I go out to work each day, I pop it on and hear a neat little story. So let's see here. Going to the recording booth, I'm seeing, Tweaked. You had something to ask about this?
The Fatherhood. I want to say I heard him. Was it Flight Assist podcast a while back?
I do not believe so. No, they haven't covered this yet.
I'm not sure where I remember these guys from, but yeah, this is some pretty fun stuff. I took a listen to it. His YouTube channel. I just everybody go check it out. The more in-game, in-universe, quote unquote Sagittarius eye type stuff, the better off we are. I think I love this kind of stuff.
I think you might be thinking of Father Bill. That's a completely different.
Oh, that's who I heard on there. That's right. Yes.
Yeah, he is a Catholic priest who also plays Elite Dangerous in VR mode, and this is a group just called the Fatherhood because they're a bunch of, like I said, dads who basically, your 30 and 40-year-olds.
Yeah. That's right. Yep.
Yeah. But it's definitely good stuff. It's, OPIX has their news network. The Fatherhood has theirs, and I want people to reach out and, let me know if there's something that's out there, that there's another group doing a thing like this. We want to promote all the different groups sort of within the Elite Dangerous communities that are making cool things. And it's suddenly occurring to me that I don't think we mentioned this before the show. I'll go ahead and blame Roy, but so the way we do everything here is in the recording booth channel. If you guys have anything you want to pitch in on any of these, BeetleJude or WOTHERSPOON, feel free to just put a little dot in there, and we'll call on you for it.
You stole that idea from Lave Radio, didn't you?
We did. We absolutely stole that from Lave Radio. It's a good system, and it seems to work pretty well.
It is.
You didn't mention Brother Sabathius. He's a brother.
Absolutely. He's a brother from another mother, and he kills Thargoids like no other. Look at that.
In a siding or a hauler.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel a rap coming on.
No, not from me. All right. Next up, Arson, you had something you wanted to discuss.
Yeah, some forum woes. I have a little bit of a bone to pick with something I've been seeing over the last several years on the forums, basically since I started. I will say with a little preface, not everything with moderation on the elite forums is bad, but this is an issue that I have seen consistent over the last 5+ years that I've been playing. Well, 5-ish years since it's still 2020. Nearly 6, actually. But anyways, I joined the forums back in January 2015, and I participated very heavily in many threads that I participated in and posted in were regarding game mechanics that are important to me about open play, and they included a lot of moderator participation in them. And I noticed a trend of moderators drowning out feedback that they opposed with their own positions. Now, I'm perfectly okay with moderators having their own opinions. But many of these opinions were stated by the moderators with an air of authority and absolution, and were continually repeated in various forms constantly until the supporters of the idea stopped posting and the thread died. As a result of this behavior, I personally stopped participating on the forums except during betas. I continued to monitor the creation of threads using forums RSS feeds to keep up to date on game events. And for the show, I have paid even closer attention to the feed, reading the titles of every single thread created, and reading many threads, especially those regarding open play mechanics, the social issues around them, and suggestions to improve them. And I have noticed a provable trend of moderators continuing the same activity of drowning people's feedback with harassment from a position of authority repeatedly, and suppressing calls to Frontier to rein in the moderation team, including deleting threads within minutes of being posted when no rules have even been broken. After noticing yesterday a thread of interest where the same behavior was being exhibited that I wasn't personally participating in, I decided to finally speak up and went to the appropriate forum to disclose this. And I made a suggestion for a rule of disassociation, so moderators would participate in discussions on personal accounts and moderate on dedicated Frontier-provided moderation accounts, separating those duties. And basically requested that they be prohibited from disclosing their position as a moderator. The goal being to allow forum participants to discuss things without the feeling of being imposed upon by the opinion of the moderator team. And the thread that I posted in this was made by somebody else that happened to be requesting the same thing. And I kind of necroed it, and then it was locked by a moderator after one moderator post, and then they preemptively locked it with no reasoning. So I call out to Frontier to consider the fact that if the volunteer moderators are this comfortable harassing your users and drowning them out and literally silencing them when discourse is legitimate, polite, and reasoned without violating any forum rules, then what other harassment issues have or could potentially arise? Is this risk Frontier, a publicly traded company, is willing to continue to expose itself to?
So I've had some interactions with regard to the forums, and I've seen some interactions with regard to the forums that I found interesting. When I first started the sort of Turning the Wheel initiative thread, there was a moderator in that thread who basically posted with the purple tag, like, oh, this won't work or something to that effect. And I just flat out responded like, okay, do you have some information from Frontier that is definitive on this matter? Because if so, please share it. If not, you're just another person giving your opinion. You're just another commander. I'm not impressed by the purple tag. If somebody's doing something wrong, then absolutely step in and do your job with the purple tag. But over and above that, you're just another commander with another opinion. I don't give it any more or less weight than anyone else. I judge it based on the merits of what's being said, not by the purple tag. So I agree. In a lot of games I look around at, and you'll see things where people will have their personal account where they can say whatever they want, and they're free to give their opinion. Hey man, I don't think this project's going to work because, reasons, whatever. And that's your personal opinion, and that's completely valid. But you then when you're doing stuff with the purple tag, the important tag that, hey, everybody listen to me. What I say is whatever. I think that should sort of be limited to rules. Like when you're actually adjudicating, this person violated this rule, so I'm getting involved to do what I'm supposed to do, which is maintain order in the forums. So, I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I saw a moderator tell Drew Wagar in that same thread, in my Turning the Wheel thread. Drew stepped in and said, yeah, this seems like, or no, it wasn't the Turning the Wheel thread. I'm sorry. It was the thread where I asked for Frontier to bring back Galnet and stuff. And in that thread, Drew was like, yeah, this is a shame that all of this is going to waste. And that moderator jumped in and said, I don't think you should really be saying anything in this thread. It's a conflict of interest because you make money or have made money from writing stories for Frontier, which I just thought was completely bogus because, like, A, he's not currently employed at Frontier. He did some contract work at one point for them in the past, which is all concluded. And B, he purchased the game just like anybody else. He's got a right to have an opinion. If he was saying something out of line that violated an NDA or it was in some way inappropriate, that's one thing. But the guy's got a right to have an opinion, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's the main issue that I have is it's not so much sharing the opinion. I am perfectly fine with that. It's when you look through a thread where somebody has proposed something and they genuinely have the best interest of the game at heart, and every two posts you see moderators just shutting everything down and talking to people like they shouldn't be saying anything on the topic. It's disheartening, and I think it discourages positive communication on what people want from the game.
Well, we'll have to see what people, how Frontier deals with it. I mean, right now, Frontier's got their hands full with a lot of stuff. So this is going to be a tough nut to crack as far as getting somebody to divert attention from the very, very high level stuff that they're dealing with right now to dealing with that. But I do absolutely believe that there is at least a potential for it to be a good idea for Frontier to look into this. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? Oh, here we go. We got Roy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is for a company that's grown from a Kickstarter beginning to now they're a big enterprise and they're, as a developer, hosting other people's games. This is maybe the kind of thing that gets overlooked when everyone gets busy and then bites them in the butt because someone misbehaved that wasn't actually an employee but was representing the company. Like this feels like a breeding ground for things that could, create behaviors that, if this was a formal part of the community management team, which has proven itself recently to be extremely professional and engaging and awesome, if this is something where there's some they're not employees, but they're pseudo representatives of the company that are not performing to the same standard, it could just cause problems for them. And it's probably worth them taking a look at it and seeing if this has come along in the same way that the rest of the company has grown, would be my opinion.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, for the record, I don't know of any allegations of any behavior like that. I don't personally know of it. The only observation I made is I feel like it would be a stronger practice for Frontier's forum moderation to be handled in such a way that we separate rule adjudication and the purple tag from recreational opinions of just another commander, in which case I don't think it should carry that purple tag. But that's just, whatever. That's just my my observation. And Frontier obviously is a big company and they've got lots of concerns and interests, and they're going to have to weigh out what makes the most sense to them.
Yeah. Can I just say that you do need to bear in mind that the moderators on the forum are volunteers. They are players, essentially. They're probably doing the best they can. They have, I think, Paul Crowther, is it, who oversees them. The guy who used to oversee the Frontier forums left not that long ago. I think it was an American chap, I've forgotten his name. My experience off the Frontier forums has actually been pretty positive. The moderators sort of make it quite clear, or have in the past made it quite clear, when they're taking their moderator hat off and commenting as a person. That may not happen all the time, but they do their best. It's not a particularly easy job because they have an awful lot of saltiness going on there, and they need to try and keep that in check. I obviously can't comment on these individual cases because I haven't really been involved in them. But
let me ask you, taking into account what you just said, Wotherspoon,
Mhm.
do you think that it might be helpful for them as well as Frontier, as well as the community, if they had an opportunity to more clearly delineate their personal opinions from their adjudication by having their purple tag when they're adjudicating and a regular commander tag for their persona, for their personal persona when they're giving their opinions? Do you think that that would help them?
Perhaps. Generally speaking, each of the moderators have their own part of the forum, and they won't comment on the bits of the forum that they moderate for the most part. Or if they do, they should make it clear that that they are doing so as an individual. I think that is a rule within their guidelines, but I can't say if they necessarily do that all the time. At the moment, their access to the account is simply their own personal logins. So their login gets assigned a role, and that's what you can see with this purple tag. And I imagine if you take it off, then it would untag all the posts that they've made. So
Maybe if they were to have some special ability to tick a box and it would delineate whether or
yeah,
not they're speaking as their personal commander persona or speaking as their moderator
I
persona.
think I think it's important, sort of, when highlighting a problem, to highlight the problem rather than invent potential solutions. If the problem is that it's sometimes hard to see whether a moderator is talking as a player or as a moderator, then that's something to flag to Frontier, and then Frontier should be able to, if Frontier takes it seriously, if Frontier thinks it's a problem, then they should be able to come up with a solution. That's a good suggestion, that you could have two accounts, for example. But there may be other solutions as well that they can do within the software.
Well, I think this counts as Arson highlighting that for Frontier, and
Indeed so.
I would love to see. There's a lot of comments in the comment section, in the chat, in the live chat going on right now. I'd love to see people share their expressions, share their opinions with regard. They could do it on the commentary section of this video. They could do it on the Frontier forums. They could do it on Facebook or Reddit. They could do it in our Discord. Get involved if you feel like, hey man, these guys are doing a great job, I don't know what you're talking about. Say that. If you feel like, hey, I've seen this problem or that problem, say that. Let us know what you think. All right, let's move this along. We've got, next up, the Anti-Xeno Initiative has announced Alert Level Yellow. Alert Level Yellow. As of last night, Thargoid non-human signal sources have begun appearing in the Coalsack Nebula region. Currently, these appear to be the same as the Pleiades and Witchhead Nebula. However, the NHSS 8 Solo Hydro instances are included, and interestingly enough, they are now missing from the Witchhead Nebula. We'll have to look into what that means. They alert their commanders to be aware for Thargoid activity. And Arson, why don't you pop that video on? We have actual information of a new Thargoid attack on a station. Pull that up, Arson. Take a look on the screen there. This is a video that comes to us, let's see here, from Special Katana. The following video feed has received from Security Drone 16 at Titan City Starport in the Sol system. So for those listening on the podcast and you're not seeing the screen, there's a link in the show notes. This guy did a very cool video where he put in one of the, from Babylon 5, who are those guys? The Shadows. He put in one of their ships attacking a station. I just thought it was a real funny little video. All right, but the Anti-Xeno Initiative Alert Level Yellow is real. That's something that they've called out for. Next up, we've got the PC Gamer exclusive. First look into the further Odyssey details. This is from issue 351 that went hit newsstands on Thursday, November 12th. Reddit posted it early by a subscriber, Commander Dinbar. We've got links in the show notes to the Imgur account and the Reddit thread that discusses all of this. I want to give a huge shout out and salute to Stuart GT, who has made sure that the sort of community is aware of this, as well as some other things, which we're going to get to in a little bit. They talk about things like the fact that the suit shields draw more energy, so players will need to think about when to deploy them. It's more of a tactical thing. It's not like your sort of shield on your ship that you keep on 24/7. You're going to need to turn it on and off in those times where it's appropriate so that you can sort of maintain your energy levels in your suit. They confirmed that there will be combat in settlements that will be allowed. They talked about a potential, a type of mission that we will be seeing in the future, which is things like restarting the power to a deserted settlement. And they said you might be a little surprised to show up and not find any enemies there to clear out. So you get there and you turn on the generator. And when you start up the generator, a bunch of marauders start to appear. And you have to, at that point, either fight or sneak around to, advantageous positions to accomplish your mission, or just run away, deal with it however you need to deal with it. They talk about the fact that the FPS combat will be tactical in nature. It will be on the spectrum between ARMA, which is super slow and clunky and tactical and very, very, very sort of minute control, and Call of Duty, which is way more sort of fast-paced, run around, hoorah, shoot stuff in the face. So they're saying that they're going to be in the spectrum sort of between the two. They're looking to sort of be leaning away from arcadey style sort of fast twitch stuff. They're going to be, they don't want it to be slow, but they don't want it to be, fast twitch. They talk about the fact that there's going to be various weapon types, including lasers, which will do thermal damage. So that will be good versus shield, just like your ship. Bullets, kinetic damage, which will be good versus armor. They didn't talk about other types of weapons, but we'll presumably be seeing some in the future. They talk about the fact that suits will each have a limiter on weapons and tools carried. Tactical or combat suits will grant +1 weapon, but have some tool capacity lowering compared to the others. Now, all we know of now is the Dyson plant gun, but the whatever genetic multi-sampler, flora sampler, whatever. But clearly, there are more tools, or that statement makes absolutely no sense. We know that for scavenging, there's going to be locks that we have to overcome. So presumably some form of a lockpick, or scavenging tools, multi-tools, what have you. Maybe on-foot mining tools. We have no idea on if that is a gameplay loop that will be coming or not. Weapons will have different draw speeds and time to look down the sights, making pistols advantageous for close quarters combat, while rifles are better for extended, at-range combat. They talk about the fact that combat on foot and in ships are not separated, and you can engage in joint mix combat. This is a direct quote from the article. "We don't want to separate the two systems," says Jackson. "So if players are in ships, they'll be able to fly over settlements and shoot at players below, and they will in turn be able to shoot back at them." Now, this to me brings to mind the question, what exact type of weaponry would I have on foot that would allow me to meaningfully shoot back at an armed and shielded starship? That is definitely something that's got me wondering, like, what the hell are you guys adding in here that's even a relevant thing to mention? So we'll see. Players will be able to physically board other players' ship, acting as non-telepresence multi-crew, and also be transported around. This is, again, an exact quote with regard to the physical multi-crew. Here we go. "We're also facilitating physical multi-crew here. So if you are a part of someone's wing, you will be able to board their ship. And if they allow you to, they can fly you from one location to another." Now, this explicitly states that there will be a mixing of wing and multi-crew. And that hints at the long speculated and called for complete rework of wing multi-crew systems. We've had all kinds of issues with regard to, you can't wing in multi-crew, you can't SRV, with multi-crew, you can't do this, you can't do that. literally what he says in the article is if a player is in your wing, you can multi-crew them. That right there says that they did some rework of all of that. And, you know, right now it's just speculating to what sort of level that or nature that is, but it's definitely something in there. Now, there's plenty more content with regard to this, so go pick up a copy at newsstands today if you can. I personally went to 18 different locations today looking for it and cannot find it anywhere. It used to be easy to buy magazines. One of the guys at a big newsstand that I stopped at, that he worked there, I asked him and he said, no, man, gamers just buy everything online. So we stopped carrying all that stuff because nobody was ever buying it. They were just going online. So if you can find it, enjoy it. I will tell you, Down to Earth has a video on the subject, which we have linked in the show notes. Burr has a video on Witch Space News linked in the show notes, and Obsidian Ant as well. All three of them excellent. So let's start going through this here and deal with people's questions or comments. Arson, you're up first.
Yeah, so the whole concept of physical multi-crew and that statement on wings, I think that was my biggest latch on there. Super, super excited about that. There's so many implications. You know, did they change the way the networking works? You know, what happens if you log off and somebody's on your ship? Do they still have the ability to play? Can you leave your ship while somebody is physically multi-crewed on your ship? Because one of the things that I've always wanted to do is be able to haul somebody around I'm teaching how to play and actually get out of the ship in my SRV. Can I do that now, Odyssey? Like, and maybe leave a guest in the gunner seat with a long range, high velocity, high explosive cannon, 3 kilometers up while I disembark in a fighter, and strafe things while they bombard it. Like, there's all kinds of really awesome gameplay opportunities that we might be able to get if those reworks are coming the way we think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm definitely excited because this sort of is one of the big things that I've been looking for. I want multi-crew fix. Multi-crew and wing and SRVs, all of that. It's been, let's just say, suboptimal. And I would really, really love for that and instancing to sort of become stronger as it goes along. So why don't we go to Roy next? What's your opinions on this? We're just basically dropping this in as a discussion topic right now.
Yeah, I really keyed in on what is the gunplay speed, the FPS style going to be, and I'm not a huge FPS player. I've dabbled in a lot of them. The one that, in my mind, was really of most interest to me as far as gunplay was actually Destiny. There's a subjectively different feel in that game of how the guns fire, and what really keyed me in the description from this article was about focusing on the time it takes to take it out of the holster and the APS aiming down sights speed. And if they make those variables of the different weapons, that suggests to me a level of granularity that's a bit more than, let's say, Mass Effect level gunplay. And I'm really curious. I think we talked about this several episodes back of like, how high are they aiming here? No pun intended. Like, maybe they're looking to really do something interesting in the genre versus just a Me Too kind of FPS object within the game. So I'm really excited about that.
Well, let's keep in mind that this is not a fly-by-night, hey, look, Fortnite's doing well. Hey, look, Star Citizen made a lot of money. Let's add footy stuff. Like, this was stuff that was intended and planned and being thought of thoughtfully and meaningfully from the Kickstarter. This was stuff that was always meant to come along and is in the process. So let's go to Tweak. Get your opinions on this.
Well, all of this stuff. What really caught my eye first was the physical multi-crew. Just the ability to invite somebody onto my ship. Fly. For example, Opix gets a new recruit instead of that new recruit jumping a sidewinder all the way to open space. I can fly my crate phantom out there quick, like meet him at the bar, say hop in, and then fly him home. That sounds really cool to me. But the other things that really caught my eye was the obvious sign that we're going to have indoor gunplay in settlements and whatnot, and inside stations, maybe even. The talk that they did about the pull, the draw of the weapons, how the pistols you'll be able to draw faster than the rifles. The other thing was that one picture of the rifle that was like cracked open, like you're reloading it or cleaning it or whatever you were doing. Yeah, the shotgun looking thing. I really think there's going to be a high level of detail with these weapons that we're going to have to maintain and everything. After seeing just this little tidbit, I am super excited for the combat in Odyssey. Indoor combat, outdoor combat, combat everywhere. I love what I'm seeing.
Beautiful. BeetleJude, you're up next. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I literally just sat down with a piece of cheese. I'm back though. I am in the chair, and I do have one gin, not two.
Beautiful. So what
Sorry.
were your thoughts on the PC Gamer article? What are you excited by? What are you worried about? What do you think? What do you know?
I'm just interested in atmospheres. I'm not too worried about FPS because I'm absolutely rubbish at it. I like the idea of wrestling my ship down onto a planet through the atmosphere. I want to see I quite like Sea of Thieves as a game because of the atmospheric effects that they put in. I want to see that from inside. I don't mind seeing a bit of nebula, but I want to be able to be within the aurora, pass through it. I want to see clouds moving in front of me. I want to try and experience the difference between what it would be like with, say, landing on something which has got heavy gravity and thin clouds, or a very small pebble. That's the important thing for me. I mean, yeah, feet and all that, but I sit in a chair every evening on my bum eating cheese. Walking's not the big I am for me. I'm happy with my spaceship.
So you must be similarly interested in not just the atmosphere stuff, but also the planetary tech, making the hills and the valleys and all of that look more beautiful and interesting and realistic.
Oh yeah, that No Man's Sky type base building stuff. I do enjoy it. I've got No Man's Sky. I think it's great. I like all that stuff. I think probably it would be like a mini game, wouldn't it? It'd be a different part. You'd have to be in the mood to do that for a bit. It's just a different game.
WOTHERSPOON, what are your thoughts on this article rather?
Yeah, I would certainly agree that it is going to be a completely different game in the sense that the existing gameplay will still be there. It'll still work in much the same way. You can opt into this if you want to, and I think most people will, because there's going to be some interesting stuff going on here. I'm not sort of particularly sure if I want to go around shooting people a great deal. That sounds kind of, it might be fun, but I'll wait and see. One of the things I'm sort of, forgive me, one of the things I'm quite interested to know is if there are going to be any planets with thin atmospheres that have really high Gs, because at the moment I think the highest one we've got is about 11.5 gravities. If we could find one that's 20 G and try and land on that would be fun. As far as the on foot gameplay is concerned, I mean, I think, if I understand correctly, it's going to be quite well segregated. So, for example, a planetary outpost will be a no-fire zone. You leave that and you go to a settlement. A settlement's it's a place where things happen, as opposed to a place where you get asked to do things. So instead of being given missions, you are going out and you're achieving the mission, or you're scavenging, or doing whatever it is you're doing. Scavenging sounds interesting. It sounds to me like that might be one of the more complete mechanics they're building. One of the things that I think is going to be quite interesting about this is that they're not going to have placeholder mechanics, or at least as I understand it, they're not going to have placeholder mechanics like they do in the actual game that we have at the moment. There are certain parts of the game that we have that are click a button and something happens, and it really feels like at some point they're going to go back and fill in that missing bit. But everything we've heard of so far about Odyssey, it sounds like it's going to be a complete playable game without gaps like that. Yeah, I mean, sort of, it sounds good so far, but it is this latest PC Gamer, which by the way you can get from Amazon for £2.99, as a Kindle download. So I guess anyone can get that.
Glorying in your Kindle.
Glorying in my Kindle, indeed, yes.
I love mine.
Yeah, I mean, so it is just an article at the moment. I really don't believe stuff until I've seen the gameplay.
Fair.
So
Completely
it's
fair.
exciting, but we have some way to go.
All right, so everybody's had their comment on this. Now I'm going to do a quick pass through because people have posted like, I got a thing on this and that, but we're going to make it brief because you've already had your say. Arson, you had a thing on handheld guns attacking ships.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight Wintermute's comment of, us not really being able to carry anything that is capable of outputting enough damage because, multi-damage, multi-megajoule shields. Like, do we have those kind of power supplies? But maybe we'll have some super pen phasing sequence railguns that are handhelds. Sounds a little OP, but
Max.
yeah.
All right. And Tweaked, you had a point.
Yeah, I was going to attack the same point. I would contend that we don't know all the weapons that we're going to get yet. We could, for all we know, have a ground-based cannon that we could get out of our new SRV or something, and it could be an ion cannon. If the ships are low enough in atmosphere to shoot at players on foot, then a weapon like that, like an ion cannon, could hit a ship, knock its power out, and then you could hit it with some other things. I think there's definitely things in play here.
Imagine hopping onto a turret of at a settlement or whatever, and now you've got some that are like the station type cannon, some big heavy turret that you're in, and you're taking out a ship or whatever. Roy, you had a thing.
Well, one of my primary modes is exploration, and I often wonder, like, how much content can they put into the areas that are tens, hundreds, thousands of light years from the bubble? And when I see stories about abandoned settlements, it seems to encourage that you could have some things outside the bubble worth investigating. But I'm just curious if this is sort of, now there's going to be the bubble and like another level of, I don't know what to call it, but it's the expanded bubble where here's where you can also find missions for things that were people trying to get out of the bubble, and that generates these stories. Or if you might find stuff that's 3,000 light years away that's a mission. Who knows? I'm curious about that.
Interesting. All right, next up, we've got a hot scoop on the next Dev Diary. All right, so we've been told that Dev Diary 3 has been pushed back till December, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But right off the bat, let's look at the Dev Diaries we've had so far. So first up, we had One Giant Leap. And One Giant Leap, was interesting. And it was planetary tech, all of that. Then we had Dev Diary 2, which is Forge Your Own Path. Now, Arson just threw up on the screen. If you go to the official EliteDangerous.com/Odyssey site and you scroll down a little bit, you get to a sort of picture there, an image where it shows it's segregated into quarters, and they show One Giant Leap on the top left. Where have I heard that before? They show Forge Your Own Path in the top right. And the bottom left is Assemble Your Crew. And the bottom right is the Sphere of Combat. I contend that what we're going to get as Dev Diary 3 in December is Assemble Your Crew. Now let's look at what it says there. It says, social hubs spread throughout the galaxy give commanders the ideal place to plan their next move, form alliances, procure services, and even find expert support in highly coveted engineers. These public outposts also help you acquire and upgrade weapons and gear to perfect your playing style. So, yeah, I think Dev Diary 3 that we're going to get in December is going to be sort of, is going to be that. And I think that I find it interesting. It goes along with the idea of that was talked in this PC Gamer article about physical multi-crewed. It talks, it goes with, I think we're getting a little bit of bleed through again from BeetleJude. I think what we're going to see here is form alliances. I'm thinking is going to be, you know, how players can work together on things. Procure services. I think that's along the lines of hiring sort of, now it could be hiring other commanders, but I think you're probably going to see some mechanism for hiring NPCs to help accomplish certain tasks. And find experts, support in highly coveted engineers. They've already said there's going to be engineers, new engineers with regard to, you know, the game added in Odyssey. It'll be, we don't know yet if those engineers are just for the suits, or if they're for the suits and the guns, or if they're for the suits and the guns and the SRVs, or if they are in fact for suits, guns, SRVs, and ships. We might have, for all we know, some new engineering with regard to existing gameplay loops. None of this has been sort of decided yet. This is all still up in the air. And then Dev Diary 4, which presumably would be coming, I guess, in January now, we're thinking, I don't know, is the sphere of combat. And the what it says for that is experience intense first-person combat, kit out your character with an array of weapons and gear, and coordinate with teammates to master a multi-layered, deep tactical environment where commanders, SRVs, and starships converge. Now, I contend that obviously this is going to show us more stuff about the suit and the weapons and get into the actual mechanics of the FPS. We're going to get to see how stuff works and figure stuff from there. I think if they're going to add new SRVs, that's where we're going to see it. So yeah, what do you guys think in the chat? What do you think is about this? About the fact that, you know, it very much seems like this assemble your crew and the sphere of combat might be the next two Dev Diaries, and we might be getting two more, and that's, you know, and then launch or what have you. Roy, hop in with your thoughts.
Yeah, this is, I think, like a forehead slap moment. Like, this is so obvious after you see it, after you've mentioned it. Why not, right? The first two titles exactly match the previous two Dev Diaries. Maybe they didn't intend to reveal it this way, but it seems pretty true.
Arson, what do you think?
I have to say the same thing. It's so cut and dry. It's there.
All right, Tweaked, hop in on this.
Yeah, this is just like it is. It's almost too good to be true here. It's almost so obvious that it can't be true to me.
Okay. Tweaked is putting on his tinfoil hat and saying, it makes too much sense, therefore it's wrong. WOTHERSPOON, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, was it Stuart GT who pointed that out not that long ago? And yes, it was kind of a bit of a duh moment. Yes, of course, that's what's going to happen in terms of sort of the names. The thing is that the names of the episodes don't necessarily particularly describe the content.
I think they stretched it a little because One Giant Leap, basically, they kept hitting the point. It's your Neil Armstrong moment, and Neil Armstrong made the quote that was famously misquoted, where he said, "One small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind," and I think that was the stretch there. Forge Your Own Path, it didn't really, considering a lot of the stuff seemed to be about like, hey, here's what the inside of stations and settlements look like. I don't see where. I
know where that came from. It's because they were saying you have the choice. You have the choice of continuing to play the way you are at the moment, or you can play entirely on foot, or you can do a mix of both. That's your Forge Your Own Path options.
I get it, but considering that is one very small aspect, it does seem like both of those were sort of shoehorned in. But assemble your crew, if you look at the actual, the text under it, for assemble your crew, it does sort of seem that one seems to actually be more on the nose.
It does, but I'll bet you when the video comes out, it shoehorns a whole lot of different stuff in there.
Oh, I bet you for sure. Arson, you have a thought on this?
Yeah, so for the forging your own path, just a reminder that they have told us that we're going to have at least a amount of content that is going to be voice acted, and we'll have the ability to make negotiations on foot. And I would argue that both of those two things are very much a forge your own path beyond the mechanics of choosing whether to play it or not.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. BeetleJude, what do you think on this? Do you think are you drinking the Kool-Aid? Do you think assemble your crew in the sphere of combat are the next two Dev Diaries?
When the first one came out, I really liked the idea that the bubble was going to burn and this Odyssey was going to be humanity leaving, potentially going to Colonia or just potentially just pegging it away as far as they could. But I'm thinking probably not now. I think you're just going to get your feet down on a few planets. I think it'd be good though. I hope the bubble does burn. Be interesting.
Watch your mouth.
I would highly doubt that they're going to do that, just because it seems like they're making this a big opportunity to onboard a whole bunch of new players, and that could be sort of difficult for them. And then there are many, many, many players for whom the BGS is their raison d'etre. That's what they play. That's how they play. And if you were to burn the bubble, that would sort of be shitting all over their sandcastle.
Hey, but it would be really exciting for the beginners area. You know, your first trip out of the beginners area and you're suddenly confronted by Medusa.
Okay, if you want to call it exciting, that's but also
Briefly
being
exciting.
in an elevator and hearing the cord snap is also exciting for about 8 or 9 seconds, and then it's less so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, it's I have heard of the burn the bubble theory. I personally dig it as far as like, wow, that's a totally cool thing that I don't think that a game company will actually do. But like, it's cool. It's cool. All right. Next up, and this is going to be another discussion topic, so make sure that you let us know what you think about all of that. So next up is a little timeline question that I have for you. So here's the timeline I'm going to offer you. Horizon's roll-in happened on October 27th. The PC Gamer article yesterday was, I think, a huge sort of sales pitch for Elite Dangerous and what's coming and why to be excited for it. Next week, the Epic Store is going to have the full game for free. Black Friday is coming up in 2 weeks, where people get, big time into their Christmas shopping. The Christmas season is upon us. I'm thinking you put all of these things together, A plus B plus C plus D, etc., and it equals to me pre-orders coming soon. And maybe those pre-orders granting access to a beta in December. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But I feel like if you take, let's just deal with the pre-orders question. If you take the Horizons roll-in, the game article, PC Gamer article, huge, like I said, sales pitch, free accounts next week, and Black Friday just around the corner, kicking off the Christmas season, it seems to me that this is the time to drop that pre-order. What do you guys think? Let's start with Arson.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right for the pre-order. Get it in there, especially since they haven't told us any information about how much it's going to cost yet.
Roy?
I remember, was it last week or the week before, you asked us to make predictions on timing. This feels pretty similar to what we talked about, and it's sort of lining up. So yeah.
Tweaked.
While, was it Bruce that came out today and said that the price point has not been locked down for Odyssey just yet?
Oh, he didn't say it hasn't been locked down. He said it hasn't been announced. I'm fairly sure they know. I'm fairly sure.
I would hope that they would know, but even if it hasn't been announced yet, I would have to think the pre-orders. You'd think they'd want to start the pre-orders before long to start gauging whether there's going to be an overwhelming response to the servers or what kind of response they're going to get with this, and the timeline just adds up with all of the stuff you just laid out, with mid-December coming, Christmas time coming, and everything, and yeah, with the stuff that they kind of hinted at in the stream the other day, I would have to almost believe for sure there's a pre-order coming within weeks.
WOTHERSPOON, what do you think? This timeline makes sense to you, or you got some holes to poke in it?
Well, pre-ordering isn't so much of an issue because they don't actually need to deliver anything to a pre-order. I'm interested to know, firstly, am I going to have to switch over to using Steam for Elite Dangerous? Because at the moment I'm using the Frontier launcher, and at the moment there's no way of registering your pre-interest on the Frontier launcher. Secondly, I'm interested to know what sort of pre-order bonus there'll be. For pre-ordering Elite Dangerous, I got a free Eagle and a couple of ship skins and a couple of decals. I suspect it'll be something a bit different this time around. And pre-ordering Horizons, excuse me, got you Cobra Mark IV, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And
I think they
Black
learned their
Friday.
lesson. I think they learned their lesson that the Cobra Mark IV, I don't think they intend to repeat that. I think that
No.
sort of bit them in the ass a little bit of.
No, they've said that explicitly that they won't.
Yeah.
So in terms of pre-orders, I mean, who knows? It could be any time. But in terms of release of the game, at the moment, if they're pushing back the dev diaries, I think they're pushing back the release of the game as well.
All right, BeetleJude, what do you think? Does this timeline make sense to you, or do you have an alternate theory?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that they've had such kickback from previously delaying timelines, and you've seen all the thorough hate for people that delay games. So I'm assuming they're going to keep with it, even if they release it slightly pared down. So yeah, pre-orders could come soon. I probably will. I got a Freegal. I liked it. I sold it. I shouldn't have sold it. I liked it. It was all right. Yeah, no, it's all good. I'll probably buy it next week for free because I've not got enough copies. Obviously, you need one, a spare one, a burner account, don't you, to do terrible things.
Yes,
To be a ganker.
Evil doings where I can undermine everything that WOTHERSPOON does.
Well, we're going to hop into the Frontier news, in which we're bringing that up as a subject, and I have my argument for what I'm going to do with my character, and we'll see what other people think. All right, so that brings us to Frontier news. Right off the bat, we've got store alert number 98. The Viper Predator and Orca Emissary paint jobs are out, so go and get them if that excites you. And then the very next subject is the Epic Game Store free Elite November 19th through the 26th. Now, we've got a link in the show notes. You can go to the Epic Store. This is basically a loss leader thing that the Epic Store does. They constantly give out every week. They're giving out new free games, and they pay the company. They make some kind of a deal. I'm sure they get a price, but they do pay Frontier for it. It's not like you're just getting something for absolutely nothing. Epic is burning through that Epic money and handing out because they want to grow their platform. They want to attack Steam. Now, there's clearly people that don't like Epic for whatever reasons they have. There's people that don't like Epic because the launcher is a bit clunky in their opinion or whatever. But I would point out to you that this is something for nothing. I personally absolutely am going to be getting it. I'm curious to see how many people create multiple Epic accounts with different emails and get multiple free commanders. But me personally, here's what I'm going to do with my commander. I am going to play him for about 20 hours of game time, and I'm going to name him something along the lines of Search and Rescue, and I'm going to park him on my fleet carrier so that when the Turning the Wheel initiative is done and I am where I want to be, out in the black, 30,000 light years away from anyone, if I run into some weird situation, I'm able to fuel wrap myself from 2 jumps away on my fleet carrier. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with Roy, and then Arson, and then Tweaked, and then BeetleJude and WOTHERSPOON. We're going to pass it from one to the next. What do you think about this, and what do you want to do with your free character if you intend to get one? Start it off, Roy, and pass it along.
I think it's interesting that, I mean, regardless of what you think of Epic, having a third way to launch the game means potentially you could have 3 different versions running simultaneously. I've got, and it sounds like maybe WOTHERSPOON, you have the same thing, running from the FDev launcher. I'm running from like the original DVD, so I can run, in the past when Carrier Beta was on, I was able to run the Carrier Beta off of a Steam account simultaneously with the FDev launcher, and I guess with an Epic launcher, I could actually run 3 at a time if I had a desire to multi-crew my own ship. So I think aside from the fact that it's awesome, it's a free copy. It's interesting that now there's technologically a third way to launch the game. Let's go to Tweaked.
Yeah, on Xbox, you can actually do this already just by having a family account and like signing in through my daughter or something. The problem I have with an alt account is I barely have the time I want to devote to my main account. I'd be wasting my time on an alt account, really. I mean, I can see the advantage to having one. For example, right now I'm in Colonia, but I really, really would like to take part in this CG and get that grade 5 double engineered FSD that they're giving away. That being said, I just don't have the time. I'd be grinding mats for my alt, wishing that I had those mats for my main character, really. But anybody on PC, this is a great opportunity to do it. The other thing I would add real quick is if I were to start an alt, I probably personally would wait until Odyssey drops and try to play strictly from the ground for a little while and see what that's like.
Well, there's nothing stopping you from getting it for free and then just holding it and waiting and doing just that.
Apart from the fact that you'll need to buy Odyssey, of course.
Well, yes, there's that.
Oh, that's a done deal.
Yeah. Who's up next?
Arson, I think.
Yeah, I will definitely be getting into it. I think it'll be either my 5th or 6th alt account. No, I have not had the time to grind any but the one. But I do love the idea that I can transfer credits to it from my main's fleet carrier. And I love Tweak's idea of using that alt account as a let's go play the game from the perspective of starting fresh in Odyssey with this free alt account. And I've got to say, I am so excited about that because I did the same thing with Horizons with one of my other PC alt accounts, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I cannot wait to do that with Odyssey. I think it's going to be amazing.
All right. BeetleJude, what do you think? You're muted.
Oh, I'll get it. I'll enjoy it. I will probably use it as a spare. I've got the Epic Game Launcher anyway, because I've got an Epic game or two, I think. I'm not sure I can multi-box, though. I can barely play one at once, so I wouldn't want to do more than one. I don't see the reason anyway. I know that people do stuff to do weird stuff, but I think, it's quite nice to have the opportunity to do one thing. Like I could mine with one of my accounts and just and just leave it there, or there's loads of stuff you could do. It's quite a nice little idea, and if it's free, it's free. That's all good. I mean, who doesn't like free stuff?
For sure. And WOTHERSPOON, bring us home with this one.
Yeah, well, I went on Distant Worlds, and then I went on Distant Worlds 2, and those two events together had me out of the bubble for over 2 years. So I do have an alt account. I have an alt account because I want to take part in multiplayer activities, not just as multi-crew. I want to actually be able to have a ship there. It also means that I can sort of take video for Galnet Digest, and I can record sound for Sagittarius Eye magazine from places which are relevant to the stories, because I can keep my alt somewhere where, well, basically where like the Empire and the Federation and so on. I can be in Colonia, I can be at Beagle Point with my real account, and the alt is back in the bubble. I will. Oh yeah, of course. I mean, who wouldn't get a third account? If nothing else, it'll give me a chance to experience the starter systems, because of course I think all of us probably had progressed beyond that stage by the time the starter systems existed. So it's a part of the game I've never seen. So that'll be kind of nice.
Beautiful. Next up, we've got the streams. Tuesday's Super Cruise News, number 12 with Stephen and Bruce. It was in 2 parts, as all of the Frontier streams seems to be now. They go a minute or two, crash, and then come back up and go for the rest of the hour and a half. They gave away 6 paint jobs. They talked about the fact that they're pushing the time back on the Tuesday streams a little bit. They're going to be pushing them back a little later. And yeah, they had a good stream. Thursday's stream was Fight or Flight CQC, which was a stream of Art and Bruce, again in 2 parts. They talked about the new CG in the Colsat Nebula. They talked about the fact that, you know, the Epic Store is going to have Elite free. Art stated specifically that Dev Diary 3 is delayed now until December. It was filmed, but needs reshoots or some bits of it, whatever. And between lockdown and another reason, they're a little bit delayed. I'm going to have Arson play that in just a moment. But first, I want to give you an exact quote of what Art said next. He said, "We're working on something else, which is a priority, which I'm sure you will like just as much, if not more." Now, this to me screams beta. It could be a couple other things. Let's look at it. It could be basically what to me would be that big. You've got, number 1, massive invasion of the Thargoids coming back with big ships. They're going all hard at it. Number 2, it could be, okay, we've given you the teaser trailer. Now we're going to give you the full details trailer of Odyssey. Or it could be number 3, which is beta. Of things that are happening in December, I can't think of anything other than those 3 things, which we as a whole would be as excited for as the next Dev Diary. Go ahead and Arson play that, and then we'll come back and have everybody hop in with their thoughts on it.
Also saw some questions in there about the next Dev Diary. I always say every time on this, I'm always honest with everybody. Obviously, we've had lockdown, not in lockdown, back in lockdown. Dev Diary has been filmed, but we've had to reschedule some parts of it because of the current situation. It is coming. It is running a little bit late. I do apologise. We are expecting it. It will be December now, unfortunately, just because we are working on something else. So that's what I'll say about that. We're working on something else, which is priority. And I'm sure you'll like just as much, if not a bit more. So Dev Diary is coming, but it will be in December. So sorry if it's going to be a bit late, but we will have some other stuff to share with you soon. For that one.
All right. So let's start off with Tweaked. What would you like just as much, if not more, than Dev Diary 3? That could be happening in December.
The beta. That is it. There is nothing. An Odyssey trailer wouldn't get me more excited than the next Dev Diary. Thargoids burning the bubble or attacking the bubble would not get me more excited than the next Dev Diary. The only thing that would get me more excited than the next Dev Diary would be a beta. And that to me would time up with the timeline of a possible pre-order, and there's your reward for pre-ordering. You buy into the pre-order, you can get into the beta, test out everything, and yeah, sign me up. I'm in.
That seems like a very strong motivator to pre-order. Want to see the new toys first? Roy, hop in on this.
I'm kind of reflecting on Weatherspoon's comment a second ago about, you know, maybe the delay of Dev 3 is indicative that maybe the release might, and maybe the whole schedule is slid a little bit.
Possible.
I'm thinking, you know, for it to be something more interesting than Dev Diary 3, maybe there's something from a narrative standpoint with this 2-year plan they've got of CGs and everything else that has to happen before Odyssey, that they have to squeeze in. And I can't put my finger on it, but it feels like the way he talked about it, it sounds like something they're having to do something out of sequence or earlier, or like it suggested to me like they're having to do something that's not what they planned. So I'm a little confused by that, but I think it's a major narrative event that has to happen before they launch the new game.
Wotherspoon, what would you want more than Dev Diary 3, or just as much?
well, thinking from a point of view of Frontier, they have two separate teams. They have a team that's developing Odyssey, and they have a team that's doing the live game. Anything that they do in the live game isn't going to affect the release of Odyssey, or certainly not the beta of Odyssey, which I think means that all they can be talking about is either more video content or some sort of demonstration of the game, be it a sort of playthrough or be it a beta that we can actually participate in ourselves. I really don't see the storyline that's in the game at the moment making a huge difference to when they can start the beta for Odyssey, unless they're going to release a whole new sort of raft of aliens on us that will appear in the beta, and they want to explain them to us before the beta starts. That's the only reasoning I could think of.
BeetleJude, you're up. What do you think? What do you want just as much, if not more, than the Dev Diary 3? And what do you think we're getting in December that's going to be so special?
They've said there's stuff we've not found, like there's aliens out there, aren't there? I mean, they might release a little bit more about the Guardians that they've already got written. They might have already written stuff that we've just not found. They might just poke us towards it a bit better. I mean, you know that some of this stuff probably has been a little bit random. People have found this stuff, like, when they found Colonia. It was purely somebody having a fish around, wasn't it? So you never know. There might be something out there that they've already got written, that's already ready to go, that we've just not found yet, that they might just kind of like poke us at, so that they've not got to like beat their heads with the kipper whilst they're busy doing the Odyssey. I mean, whatever. I'm happy with Odyssey as it's. I'll watch the Dev Diaries when they come. I'm easy going. I don't mind.
Right on. Arson, what do you want as much as Dev Diary 3, and what do you think we're getting in December that's so great?
Beta. The actual release. I mean, logic dictates don't get hope.
Yeah,
I know.
That's why I said in December, because if there's 2 Dev Diaries to come, we can't expect actual release. I mean,
yeah, no, I totally get that. I'm just saying that's one of the very few items actually on my list. I don't really expect the beta, even though that's the only thing that really tops it. Maybe more Odyssey footage. I guess a lore thing makes more sense, but beta is really the top of my list based off of what's happening.
Here's another thing that comes to mind as a question. So what about a limited beta? So here's an example. What if they do Dev Diary 3, let's say, I don't know, December 5th, December 8th, whatever. And then beta, Dev Diary 3, let's say December 5th. And on the heels, like at Dev Diary 3, they say, oh, by the way, pre-orders are on sale tomorrow, right? Build the hype, get it going. And then they say pre-order will give you limited beta access. And the beta is, let's say, everything other than the FPS. So you'll get to walk around, you'll get to wing multi-crew, you'll get to see what, if anything, they have changed with regard to the underlying code base with regard to, better instancing, better whatever, all of these things. You'll get to go to Apex Interstellar travel. You get to go to the settlements and see this, that, and the other, all of the stuff except shooty. And then they do, so because I think there is at least potentially some validity to getting everybody to test all of those aspects, and then doing Dev Diary 4, which is combat, and then doing a beta for that, where, okay, now we're going to have people test that, as opposed to just saying it's open for you to shoot people, and then no one looks at the other stuff because shooting people. Roy.
That's an interesting thought, that the FPS could be such a huge distraction that they don't get a proper test. I wasn't really on board with what you were saying until you said that, because the first bit, it would be like, man, I get to like play with all the regular stuff, but I really want to play with the new toy. yeah, from a software testing perspective, it might make sense to compartmentalize it like that.
Tweet?
I would disagree a little bit, honestly. The whole idea of a beta is to test every part of it to make sure it's going to function properly when the full release comes. So I would think if there's going to be a beta, they would want us to test every aspect of it, all of it.
Okay. So we're asking all of you guys in the chat, watching later, listening while you drive your car, for the podcast. What do you think is coming in December that we want just as much? What do you want just as much as Dev Diary 3? Is it, could it be a storyline thing? Would that suffice to you? Or would it need to be beta or maybe an extended trailer that has all kinds of stuff? Tell us what you think. They also talked about on the stream the upcoming Christmas show that is planned with hints of the return of the, Super Cruise News Crew from Halloween event, which with that hilarious skit that they did. And they talked about the fact that the Christmas show is also going to have some cool giveaways. They mentioned that they have some special stream decks that they're going to be handing out to people. So that'll be interesting to look forward to. Well, I'm sure people would love to win that. Art talked about the fact that he has seen some content with regard to content creators making stuff talking about problems with Elite Dangerous, things that they would like to see fixed in the new, with the upcoming code base, all kinds of issues. He said, like, hey, look, I appreciate the validity of these issues. We're listening. We're promising that we will get fixes and information as soon as possible. Thank you for your feedback. We're monitoring this. We are looking to address these things as and when we can. And they talked about that they were testing this new stream setup, and the fact that the Super Cruise News will from now on next Tuesday will be at the new time, which is pushed back. On the forums, Bruce Garrido made a post about Odyssey, which we mentioned earlier, saying that the price is not locked in. Somebody asked, like, hey, what's the price for Odyssey? And he said it is not locked in yet. Roy, why don't you run us through real quick through the Galnet news articles?
Yeah, there was 4 articles since our last episode. On the 9th, this was where it was really an acknowledgement in game of the Halloween episode. With the Adamastor and the story and the Alliance announcing they were shifting focus basically from Witchhead into the coal sack to go after more meta alloys. Then we saw on the 10th the story about Hadrian Duval, and this was sort of a follow-up to Princess Aisling providing care to him and him sort of coming out saying, look, we should band together and fight against external enemies and not amongst ourselves. But also he threw in a comment about comparing the purge of Nova Imperium's followers to what's maybe happening to the Marlinists, and maybe making a distinction between the military and civilian factions of that group. And then on the 12th, 2 stories. These were really setting up the narrative in game that turned into the CGs, which we'll cover here in a minute. With the 2 CGs in the coal sack, and then announcing the conclusion of the federal systems resisting the Imperials in the combat CG that just finished.
Right on. And Arson, why don't you take us through the CGs, last week's and this week's?
So our civil war, or not civil war, but our war between the Empire and the Federation has concluded. The Empire lost handily, only getting to stage 2. The rewards for those CGs were quite hefty in the form of military rank promotions. For both sides, it was a top 25% will receive 2 rank promotions, top 75% will receive 1, and then for the winning CG, which was the Federation, or LTT 1935 Confederacy, who won, the top 10 commanders received a complete and total promotion to the top rank, which is.
And let's keep in mind that those ranks will be awarded as of tomorrow, as of the 14th Saturday. So if people are like, I know because I've already heard from people like, hey man, I picked up my money, but I didn't get my rank. That those come a couple days later. You got to give them time to sort that out.
And then we, of course, have 2 new CGs. You see me participating in one right now, protecting the expansion into the Colsac Nebula, where you are collecting bonds from AX Combat and handing them in at the Spirit of Nisa. We also have the expansion into the Colsac Nebula, where you sell power regulators, robotics, structural regulators, and building fabricators to the Spirit of Nisa. And successful completion of the expansion initiative provides improved outfitting options added to Bearingport, the addition of a human technology broker to Bentoncourt base, the upgrade of Coal Point into a carrier administration system, and both CGs for the top 25% of pilots will provide a double engineered frameshift drive provided by Sirius Corporation. This is going to include grade 5 increased range and grade 5 faster boot sequence. For those watching live, you can see that the combination of these gives you an extra bonus of optimal mass of 15%. And I'll go ahead and let the rest of you guys talk about the stats on that while I blow up this Thargoid.
Beautiful. Why don't you hop in on that, Roy? I know you did a analysis on that.
Yeah, I ran some quick numbers through ED Shipyard. I use ED Shipyard as well as Coriolis, and one of the interesting things in ED Shipyard is it allows you to type in stats that can override the sort of stock stats or engineered stats in any module. I went ahead and typed in what I think a frameshift drive with this kind of double engineering would look like, and if the stats are additive, then you take a completely stripped down DBX, and by stripped down I mean derate everything D class and engineer for lightweight and so forth, stripped down. I think you can get on a full tank of gas 75 light year jump range and near empty 81 on a DBX. So that extra optimal mass improvement from the fast recharge, it does add, and it matters.
Did you say 81 light years?
Yeah, that's with a near empty tank. So with enough in the tank to make the jump, it's probably something like 80, but it's
impressive.
a serious jump.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Tweaked comments on that?
Yeah, that FSD would be amazing on ships. For example, my Crate Phantom, which right now gets about 61, 62 light year jump range with 3 SRVs on it.
Mm-hmm.
Adding something like that to it would give me a nice little boost for any explorers, for any new commanders out there that need a jump ship to get around the bubble. That FSD is a pretty sweet deal from FDev. I again,
sure.
props to FDev for these cool rewards for the CGs.
Absolutely. And there's 2 of them. You can get in the top 25% and get it twice. All right, I'm gonna call an audible here. We're moving some stuff along quicker because we are way behind. So let's move on. Tweaked, give us your Speedball 4 Elite Week race news.
Yeah, Speedball 4. If you guys don't know what Speedball is, this is pretty fun stuff. If you've ever wanted to basically get down on the atmosphere of the planet and go as fast as you can towards the planet and try to miss the planet, this is your chance. It's just around the corner. It takes place on Saturday the 21st, Sunday the 22nd, so that's about a week away, I think it is. And it's really pretty impressive. I mean, they broke speed records of over 9,000 meters per second. Basically, in real space down at the surface of the planet, they go faster than you do in Super Cruise. And you do this in a ship that if you hit the planet, you're probably going to go explodicating yourself. So this is some pretty cool stuff, and you have a good chance to take part. If you want to take part, you fly out to the fleet carrier Litho Break. It's departing from 61 Virginis on Monday evening, shuttling interested pilots to the race venue. So basically, everybody that wants to take part in this can take part in this. This is a cool thing.
Beautiful. So we're going to have in the show notes the Discord link, the website link, the official video tutorial, the official forum thread, the whole 9 yards. So you've got everything that you need in there. we're going to move to real life science now, and we're literally just going to cover the first thing. We're cutting everything else till next week because we are so far behind. So right off the bat, let's look at, there's a report from the Journal of Astrobiology from back in March 2007, which indicates that plants in other star systems with different stars would most likely produce different color chlorophyll to most efficiently conduct photosynthesis. So instead of a world of lush greens, a red dwarf star may produce more reds, and an Aconarian, I guess is the way you say it, star might produce a world of blue and white plants. There's a picture up on the screen of what this looks like. That's from a NASA report where they got together and tried to figure out what plants would be like on other worlds. The full study from NASA.gov centers and the Goddard Center is in the show notes for you to look at. Actually, you know what? We do have a little bit of time. Tweak, why don't you go ahead and produce your thing on the new engine?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Basically, to boldly go where no man has gone before, a thermal nuclear engine is being developed that they think could get us to Mars in as little as 3 months' time. And that would be 3 months to get back home, too. The Ultra Safe Nuclear Corporation has designed a thermal nuclear engine that they think would be much safer for the astronauts because the radiation that the astronauts would absorb from spending enough time in space to actually get to Mars in the technology we have right now would be more dangerous to them than riding on this engine. And they think they've come up with a way to do this. I mean, they're actually talking like this is a real deal right now, and Elon Musk again is the driving force behind this. And I think they're going to be doing some testing on this. There is a quote in here that says, "These designs use the astonishing heat generated by a nuclear reaction to push a rocket at speeds approaching the Star Trek realm compared to what we use today." So it's pretty out there futuristic stuff, but we're getting closer and closer every day.
So here is a quick salute to those steely-eyed rocket maniacs. Roy, go ahead and hit the Voyager 2 thing real quick.
Yeah, so this was a story about the measurement of how much of a vacuum is space. Voyager 1 and 2, obviously having exited the solar system a while ago, are now encountering the various borders between the shell, the sort of the magnetic and particle shells around the vast distances of our solar system and going into interstellar space. And one of the quick things that was pointed out was it appears that although the density of space, in any case, it's a hard vacuum, but it's on the order of a few electrons per cubic centimeter near the sun, and that goes down to like 0.0002 as you get to the end of the solar system. What they're encountering as they go past the heliopause is that that's going up by a few orders of magnitude. And there's some various theories around that. Like maybe there's an interstellar wind that goes, blows through the galaxy, and that might be piling up as it encounters sort of the shock wave of our solar system moving through it. It could be that this material is getting more dense as it follows sort of interstellar magnetic field lines that curve around our solar system. So just an example of how you think this thing's gone way past all the interesting stuff, and now it's just flying through empty space, and it continues to return these really interesting results.
So basically, mankind is 2 for 2 of sending something outside of our solar system, and what that means is you've officially passed the point where it's no longer tethered to the gravity of the sun. And in both of those situations, we found that stuff isn't exactly what we thought it was out there. So that's interesting.
Yep.
It's always exciting when we are changing what we know. When we find out that we're wrong, that gives us an opportunity to learn something new. So it's exciting stuff. Now, for those who want to watch live, the launch of Crew 1 Sunday night at 7:27 Eastern Standard Time, which would be like 1:27 in the morning UTC. There's a link in the show notes so you can watch and cheer them on. And lastly, we want to hit real quick. Scott Manley put out an update about NASA, Artemis, Space Force, and the election results. I know that people are like, meh, I don't want to talk politics. Believe me, I don't either. But this is interesting because what he talks about here isn't what you might think when you hear election results. It's not rah rah on either side. It's not whatever. It's literally what he's talking about is, spoiler alert, whoever won the presidency, it wasn't really going to change all that much with regard to the plans with Artemis and NASA and Space Force and all these things, because a lot of this is stuff that's actually more covered by Congress, and Congress just sent back a budget to Artemis. NASA was saying we need 3.5 billion to keep things on track, and Congress said, how about 1 billion? How about that? So look for delays is basically the long and the short of it. And he does a really good sort of explanation for how all of that works. And I know he didn't want to get into the subject. He really was sort of saying like, man, I didn't want to do this video because people are going to, anytime you mention politics, it gets nasty. But I'm not talking politics from a proponent side of any side of the argument. I'm talking about just the mechanics of how funding works with Congress versus the executive branch, what the Senate's involved with, what Congress is involved with, how, you know, the House and the Senate argue back and forth on things, and how sort of NASA budgets work. And that is, to me, interesting. All of the other shit, I could care less, but this part is super, super interesting. So I urge you, take a look. Scott Manley is an amazing dude who makes amazing content about all things space and breaks things down in a way that I find very, very approachable. So take a look at that. That takes us into Roy Stories. Let's get it going.
We now rejoin our Inara Commander series with Yuna Sakashiro's Unbound, Part 9, Lagoon. Sakashiro felt sick. A fever made her shiver and sweat at the same time. Her white pilot suit was soaking wet. She could no longer focus on operating the ship. She was tired and weak from fatigue. She was breathing fast as if she had run 100 yards. The pain in her leg had become unbearable. She opened the ship internals panel, flipped through the tabs and pages until she found the self-destruct button. It had begun to look more and more attractive. It promised to put an end to her misery within seconds. Her finger hovered above the button. She tried to recall the happier moments of her life. There hadn't been many, and most of them involved Logan. She felt deep regret. If she had opened up sooner and told him about her feelings, maybe her life would have taken a different turn. Maybe she would have spent that fateful day with him, leaving the Pilots' Federation district together, instead of working at the shipyard. So many moments with him, and she had wasted all of them. She closed her eyes and began to weep. Then she held her breath. Her finger moved towards the button. "Let me get us closer to the sun," said Logan. He sat next to her, plotting a course in the galaxy map. She knew it was just her brain slowly melting from the fever, starting to play with fragments of memory before erasing them forever. Submitting to a sudden impulse, she closed the internals panel and opened the galaxy map. It showed her position, a cyan marker above a small dot, surrounded by other small dots, each of them representing an entire star system. She reconfigured the map filter for systems with human civilization, and the dots began to vanish without mercy, leaving her alone in the void. She moved the cursor around aimlessly. Then she noticed a nebula, the lagoon sector, not too far away from where she was. She moved the cursor into the nebula and almost missed the tiny white dot hidden inside. Her heart skipped a beat. She was not alone out here. She plotted a course and inspected her navigation panel. Only 34 jumps. She knew this was it, her final chance. She didn't have much time left. She aligned the ship and throttled up. The Sidewinder responded with roaring thrusters. "Frameshift drive charging."
Could be.
Okay, Arson. Thanks for letting me know. All right. Next up, we've got the discussion topics. We've already hit what those were earlier in the show. We've got community question number 1, life in the galaxy. So should Frontier be looking to incorporate the aforementioned studies, findings to make flora on other worlds different colors, and that would match the system's dictates on the production of photosynthesis? What about high G worlds? Could we see smaller animals, much smaller with denser bone structure, or low G worlds giving rise to more sort of massive or giraffe type creatures? What if you had a low G world and it was particularly hot? You would end up, I think, with fauna that would be sort of longer as a better way to dissipate heat, and it would be less of a problem in low G. These are all sort of, I don't know, things that it's like, well, what about, am I overthinking this? Am I getting too crazy complicated? Or is this exactly the kind of thing that, the geniuses of the beautiful minds of David Braben and Dr. K and et al. would like to dig into? Roy, what do you think?
The question I think it raises is, what is the level of fidelity of the model from a simulation standpoint that they're committed to maintaining? And it covers all the things you just mentioned. There's also, even if we go back to the episodes where we talked about exoplanets and things, I remember talking offline with Professor Awan, because there were some of the planets some of the systems I was looking for that were in the galaxy map and some that weren't, and he pointed out that they have been hand editing some things as discoveries are made. I don't know to what extent that's that I think it's true. I don't mean to what extent it's true. I mean how much of it they're doing. And what, where do we draw the line between a simulation and a game here? What's the vision around that? And I don't think I think we can kind of guess some things, like they're leaning hard towards a simulation of the astrophysics, and you would assume this extends to when we eventually get flora and fauna. But yeah, we could probably use some clarity on that. Like where does it not matter anymore for the game to still be fun? But it's cool to know that you're flying through a universe that has some dedication to being a representation of the real thing, because that fulfills sort of the fantasy of being able to do this sort of thing in real life.
Tweet, hop in on this.
Yeah, I was going to kind of just address that exact same point, is that FDev's reputation and their goal for Elite Dangerous is to be mostly a simulation. So I see no reason, with as scientific as they built this whole galaxy and the geniuses of the development team that we have there. I mean, Dav and Dr. Ross, and I mean, these people are next level. So I see no reason to believe that the flora and the fauna that we're going to get wouldn't be affected by the gravity and the terrain of the planets that they're going to be on.
WOTHERSPOON, what do you think?
Well, I'd be fascinated to find out what sort of flora and fauna inhabit, for example, planets orbiting a neutron star. Things that can survive being bombarded with radiation thousands of times higher than anything we could experience here on Earth would have to be pretty specialized. I don't see any reason why Frontier can't take into account the star class, the gravity, the amount of atmosphere. It seems perfectly sensible that if you're generating content based on a set of parameters, like with the Stellar Forge, I don't see any reason why they can't use the same mechanisms again. There is a possibility, based on what we've seen so far, that these could be more like Star Citizen handcrafted assets, but I doubt it. I think it's much more likely that we're going to see a near infinite variety of different sorts of life forms. And if that's true, then I would hope that they would take into account the environments in which they're found.
That when you say that, it calls to mind that the what is it, the Spock quote, infinite life and infinite variations, or whatever.
Yeah
Old school Star Trek head. All right, BeetleJude, what do you think about all of this, all these the idea of these different colored plants or different types of creatures based on the statistics of the planets.
I quite like the idea that some of the plants might be partly sentient as well. That might be quite fun. And I like the idea that, like you said, old school Star Trek. You know how like they go down to a planet and then they all sniff the magic grass, and then Spock gets out his loot. I like the idea that potentially some of the planets might have, I don't know, some bark mounds might overload your suit sensors, and you might start to get kind of UA-like interference due to some of the impact of some of the materials on the planet. I'd like there to be impact from, well, not just the gravity. Like, I mean, you're not necessarily going to be in some sort of expanse bodysuit, which allows you to stomp with your magic strength. But also, you know, that the planet is going to have an impact on you as a commander, regardless of your remlock. I'd like that to be, and it'd be nice for you to find that the big game was in fact on that particular planet just an enormous mushroom. There's a quite nice book by Sherry S. Tepper called Grass, where the grass is psychoactive, and it's all kind of symbiotic with the plants and the animals on that planet. Quite fun. Braben did want big game hunting, didn't he?
He did. Well, so to be clear, though, the context in which people always say, like, well, Braben wanted people to be out there shooting dinosaurs from your Cobra. Let's be clear, because yes, that was a thing that was mentioned. But if you go back and watch the actual interviews where that was discussed, he wasn't talking about it like, rah, rah, let's go shoot big lizards in the face. He was talking about sort of from a conservational standpoint, the grossness of big game hunting, in that he specifically said, you know, what if you had a creature that was like a massive creature, and you know, we were killing it, you know, and literally just cutting off the eyebrows because it had some valuable thing. Or I think he was sort of making and this is from a guy who, you know, put out, you know, Planet Zoo. He was talking, I think, about the ethical sort of quandaries of, you know, killing an elephant for the ivory or different things like that. It's an interesting thing because I think so few people actually remember the context of that quote, in which he was talking about it more from the standpoint of, this is a thing that could happen, and if that were to happen, how sad would that be? And everyone just remembers, I shot a dinosaur in the face with my Cobra. You know,
That's not how I remember it. I remember it as sort of, hey, you can go on a safari and shoot things. I might be misremembering.
Elite's full of that stuff.
So as
The rares, they all have stories. I mean, you need the arts graduates.
As somebody who's gone back and watched all the Kickstarter videos repeatedly, there was one specifically that wasn't talking about promised features, but was talking about various different things each of the developers had in their mind as things that they think would be cool. And David Braben did talk about game hunting as being something that would be fun. But it wasn't like, oh, we're going to get this. It was just more of like just a whole bunch of developers back to back talking about different things that they want. Yeah.
To be fair, I did just mention it as an aside to psychoactive grass.
Yeah, that's true.
This was not what I was talking about.
That's true. All right. Absolutely. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of possibilities there, and I agree with Roy's point that it'll be interesting to see to what level they get involved in that. And what do you guys think? Do you think, would you like to see, you know, planets with sort of reddish suns have different color plants, or whitish blue, or is that like sort of, oh, like, you're overthinking it, you're getting too deep down the rabbit hole? So that'll be community question number 1 for you guys to weigh in on what you think. Community question number 2, which we've already discussed: What will you do with the opportunity for at least one free alt from the Epic Store? Or are you like, man, I don't like the Epic Store, I'm out? Or are you like, I'm making 9 different accounts, let's roll? Community question number 3. What do you think about the Dev Diary revelations? What are you hoping for or afraid of? And community question number 4 is, what big thing do you think December will bring? What is to you big enough that you think it's something you would like as much, if not more, than Dev Diary 3? And keep in mind, this is not whatever that thing is. It's not, they didn't say we canceled Dev Diary 3 because you're getting that thing. They've said Dev Diary 3 was pushed back. It was planned to be in November, but now it's been pushed back to December at some point. And that in addition to Dev Diary 3, December will also bring something else which will be just as big, if not more so, for us. And I think it's time to move on to State of the Game. My feeling on State of the Game is that it's very, very strong. I'm digging all of the stuff. I feel like we had a crazy news. Let's recap this. We had a big article that dropped that had, revelations about new gameplay stuff that's coming. We had another revelation that dropped that, next week you're getting the game for free. Oh, by the way, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, your brother, your cousin, your friends, coworkers, let them know about this. Tell them this is the time. If you're interested, there's a lot of times where you're like, man, I've been telling this guy he would love Elite. Give it a try. And he's like, I don't want to spend money. It's British money. I got to transfer over. Get it now, man. Get it for free. So, there was that. There was a new site that was found that was spooky as shit, had an awesome story, something brand new found in the galaxy that's been there. As BeetleJude pointed out earlier, it's like there's stuff out there we have yet to find. And we found one of those things. The story is alive and going like gangbusters. There's all of these things, and I'm sure I left some stuff out. Oh yeah, whatever the big stuff coming in December is, and all of this stuff. So to me, like I said, State of the Game, 10 out of 10. I could not be more thrilled. Everything is just going like a rocket. Arson, State of the Game.
What happened to my control bindings in the middle of my session literally just now? They literally just came unbound for my flight thrusters. That's my State of the Game, but other than that, it's amazing. I'm super happy and I'm having fun. But what?
BeetleJude, State of the Game. How you feeling it?
I think it's going well, actually. I think they're in a good place. They've obviously got brand new team. They've got new PR. They've got new community. They've got tons of developers just working on the game. They've got lots of games on the go, and the company seems to be doing well. I think they're doing all right. And clearly, they are very proud of what they are in process of producing.
Absolutely. Well said. Tweak, State of the Game.
State of the Game for me is very good to great. The CGs, Thargoid stuff, great rewards for the CGs. Galnet's alive, and there's new stories almost daily at this point in time. And with this release of this article this week, I am just even more excited for Odyssey than I ever was. Not many people, I think, love Elite Dangerous as much as I do. To me, it's in my top 2 all-time games, and if Odyssey does what they're saying it's going to do, it probably will launch to be probably the best, most intricate game I ever could have imagined. So I would say great at this point.
Beautiful. And WOTHERSPOON, State of the Game.
Well, I suppose I would view it from a kind of do I find that there aren't enough hours to play the game? Right now, yes. I have a lot that I'd like to be doing, and I can't do all of it. If I find myself motivated to be going into the game and playing the game, that means the game is working for me. That's the way it's working at the moment. I know that when Odyssey comes out, I'm going to hate it. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be. I mean, seriously, there's going to be a month during which I'm completely lost. I have no idea what the bloody hell's going on, and I'm going to be spending a lot of time remapping all my keys to something that works for me.
Mm.
And then hopefully it's going to be a bit like the new what's it called? The for fuck's sake, the full system scanner.
Full spectrum scanner.
Full spectrum
yeah,
scanner.
the
That's the fellow. Yes.
FSS.
The FFS. Yes. That took me a while to get used to, simply because it required lots of remapping. I would imagine that Odyssey is going to be an awful lot more complex than that. It's going to take time to get used to. It's going to get time to understand the game loops and what's expected of you, what the opportunities are. It's going to be a time of discovery, a time of excitement, a time of frustration as well, I suspect. But it if all goes well, it could turn out to be just an absolutely massively wonderful game, and it could bring in an awful lot more players. So we're not there yet, but fingers crossed.
I think next week we might see a fairly massive influx of accounts. If you look at, what Stuart was saying is the Reddits are lighting up with regard to this. The PC Gamer article has hit hard and is drumming up a lot of interest. I think you combine that with everything that's on the horizon, with the brand new computers and PlayStation 5s and Xbox X and S's and whatever other letters they're adding to them these days. We might be in a perfect storm of a massive influx of new population, which in and of itself brings lots of opportunities and some pitfalls that will have to be addressed. Roy, state of the game, brother.
Yeah, I think this sort of data dump from PC Gamer combined with, as you say, the influx coming with the Epic Game Store, this is like the on-ramp to an increasing level of excitement between now and the launch. I think we're going to see a steady increase in pace. It feels like we've just engaged with the beginning of a runaway process in a good sense here. I'm really excited for it. As far as this week, these two CGs, I'm super excited. I'm going after both those FSDs, and then I get to theory craft a bunch of ships all over again, which is going to be a lot of fun.
Right on. All right. Well, Arsen, did you have something you wanted to add on to that?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Never mind. All right, everybody. I want to thank so much WOTHERSPOON and BeetleJude for coming in and being great guests. I feel bad, actually. I've been remiss. I want to hit something hard before we go. BeetleJude, in addition to all of the, doing stuff on Galnet, and she's been doing stuff with Hutton, and you see her on the Frontier streams, active in the chat, and she's active in the chat basically everywhere where Elite is found. In addition to all of that, she is an amazing artist. I very much love the thing that you guys did as for the Gnosis together, where it was sort of WOTHERSPOON storytelling as BeetleJude did those different like drawings and adding stuff to the Gnosis, the whole like kind of doing a collage that or I'm sure I'm shit with art, so I'm sure I'm using the wrong terms or whatever, but doing some like collage like thing that told the whole sort of story or at least bits and pieces of the whole history of the Gnosis so well. And I've seen so many of her works on Twitter and in different streams and here and there. So I just wanted to give you huge props as an artist. I couldn't do that stuff in a million years. I have no skill with regard to that. So big salute. And of course, I love WOTHERSPOON. Got that sexy British voice.
So mutual.
I have that sexy British voice. Wow. Very classy. Oh. BeetleJude, thank you so much for coming in. It's been fantastic.
No worries. Cool.
Right
Thank
on.
you.
All right. Let's go around the horn and say goodbye to the beautiful people. I'm going to leave you with Bill and Ted's line. Be excellent to each other. Roy, say goodbye to the beautiful people.
Fly casual, but stay dangerous.
Arsen, say something that doesn't creep people out.
Come try to kill me next time. I'm in open for a reason.
BeetleJude, say goodbye to the beautiful people.
Thank you.
Tweet, say goodbye to the beautiful people.
Thanks for spending a couple hours with us, everybody. Hope you had a good time and enjoy the game. We are in a transitional time of Elite Dangerous, but it's never been more exciting. Have fun, everyone.
Absolutely. WOTHERSPOON, use that sexy, classy British voice to say something awesome to sign us out, and then Arson, play the music right from there.
And that is this week's Elite Week news. Thank you for listening, and if you have been, go away and do something else.
So you don't have to.
Talking away, I don't know what I'm gonna say. I say it anyway. Today's another day to find you shying away. I'll be coming for your love, okay? And take on me, take that's me, I'm stumbling away, slowly learning that life is okay. And say after me, it's no better to be safe than sorry. And take on me, take me on. I'll be gone in a day or two. And all things that you say, is it life or just to play by